Have you ever been to a place and felt absolutely drained by the time you got home, even if you haven't done that much? Or perhaps you can remember a time when you fell madly in love, only to find out soon after you were being deceived, or perhaps you just didn't see the reality of the situation. Or maybe you're the person at home whose favourite phrase is, "No, don't worry, let me do that." These are all typical Neptune situations. And today I want to share with you how understanding Neptune in your chart can give you so much insight about where you might be lacking boundaries and about what you might be yearning for, but so much so that you're losing energy. Hi, my name's Kat from Cosmos and Crystals, and today we're talking Neptune in the chart and Neptune transits. Now, Neptune takes around 14 years to pass through each zodiac sign. So you will have Neptune in the same sign as people of your generation. And this really illustrates a lot about the slower moving planets, how their movement through a sign is about an evolution that we are part of and that we share with the people in our generation. But when it comes to Neptune transits, that's quite different, because wherever Neptune is in the sky could be connecting with planets in your birth chart. And Neptune transits can actually be an incredibly enlightening time, as I'm going to explain to you in a bit about my own experience. This can be a time of heightened intuition, of feeling a real call to be creative, to dance, to connect more with music, film. All of these things are Neptune words. But it can also be a time when you feel confused. Neptune is nebulous. It can feel without direction. And this can lead us into situations where we are victimized, where we are deceived in some way. And can you see why it would be so useful to understand when you're having that Neptune transit, so that you can then set boundaries where they're necessary and be more aware of the world around you? Because it can feel like you've got your head in the clouds when you're having a Neptune transit. And I know this very well. Neptune moved into the sign of Aries early 2026, but before that it was in the sign of Pisces for around 14 years. Think back now to your life from around 2012 to 2026. Did you experience some kind of spiritual awakening? Did you notice that the people around you were getting more into spirituality, meditation? I think you'll probably find they were. As Neptune moved into Pisces, I had my own spiritual awakening. And I wasn't at a retreat or on a mountaintop or anything like that. I was at work. I was working in a restaurant in Spain. I was already into mindfulness. I was obsessed with Ram Dass, who was my favorite teacher at the time. And I was reading the book by Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth. One morning I woke up and I literally felt detached from my body, even though my awareness was still within the body and I could see the body. There was space between me and what I was observing. It was an incredibly opening, freeing experience, but very strange, because I could go about my day, my normal activities, going to work, and everything kind of happened on automatic. I didn't need to plan anything. I didn't need to think about things. My body was just doing what it needed to do without me controlling it. But I was able to observe what was happening very consciously. Even something simple as washing my hands under tap water felt like a miracle, like the water was running through my hands. And this lasted for maybe a day or so until I kind of came back into the personality. And around me, a lot of my friends were also getting into meditation. Were also feeling called to look at themselves in a deeper way, work on themselves and find ways to calm the active mind. And Neptune is at home in Pisces. We call Neptune the modern ruler of Pisces. And so Pisces is associated with Neptune things, with creativity, with spirituality, but also with addiction, with mental health. And you already know that they are things that definitely came to the forefront over the past years. Mental health is suddenly spoken about much more freely. Neptune has helped to give us the vocabulary, to give us the openness to speak about mental health issues in society that were perhaps ignored, repressed, suppressed before. So what happens now that Neptune has moved into Aries? Well, this is extremely important because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. And so that suggests that Neptune has done a circuit of the zodiac over the past 100 and however many years it will have been, because it's 14 years in each sign. And as it moved through Pisces, it was finishing that cycle. And so whatever it is that we've developed, learnt, grown from, realized, because Neptune can feel like a veil. And when it's removed, we suddenly see things more clearly. Now that it's moving into Aries, we're asked to take everything we've learnt over the last cycle and bring it in fresh, create something new. And the idea is for that new thing to be more evolved. If we think about Neptune words, imagination, the dissolution of boundaries, a longing for freedom, for enlightenment. And Aries words, which are very much about identity, presence, independence, confidence. And so it's as though we're being called, with everything that we have discovered about our deeper selves over these last years, to bring that into manifestation. Now with Neptune that might be difficult, but we have Saturn on our side. Remember, Saturn can be a good guy as well. Saturn helps us to create reality, build structure, make things real. And Saturn is currently in Aries, where it will be for the next year and a half. So this gives us a unique opportunity to make our dreams a reality. So what are you working on? Definitely let me know in the comments if you're feeling this energy of Neptune, of Saturn in the sign of Aries, asking you to build your new identity. It could be that the last 14 years represented a relationship for you. Perhaps you got into a relationship, fell madly in love, found the person of your dreams, and over time, perhaps that you realized that that wasn't the right relationship, and maybe even that you were being deceived in some way. And through that realization, you learned a lot about yourself, and you decided to continue working in yourself, to let go of that experience, to grow from that experience, and to perhaps help others who are going through something similar, who have been a victim in some way. It might be that you're coming out of addiction, or perhaps a period of very difficult mental health, either your own or somebody that you're very close to. Aries is giving you a fresh start. It's giving you a permission slip to take everything you've learned, let go of the pain and the attachment to that, and be brave to know that you can help others with the experiences that you've had. So if you were born between the years of 1942 and 1957, you will have Neptune probably in Libra. And so Libra grew up idealizing partnership, the perfect marriage, the perfect soulmate, and you probably have a real gift for bringing harmony. Perhaps you're even more artistic. Remember, this is the sign of Venus. But the Neptune lesson here is to have boundaries in relationships, because you can easily lose yourself in the other. You can idolize someone so much that you lose your own identity. And so, like I mentioned, with Neptune moving slowly through the signs, this is an evolution through your life as well. These are lessons that you will learn along the way. And as you mature, those boundaries will become natural for you. You recognize that what you used to desperately yearn for when you were a teenager, you know when you need to pull back, when you're projecting too much energy, when you're draining yourself. If you were born between 1955 and 1970, you have Neptune in Scorpio, a very different sign to Libra, as you already know. This generation grew up through huge shifts around sex, power, control, and what had previously been hidden or unspoken. Remember, this is the 60s, the time of peace and love, the generation that wanted to feel more freedom from those taboo areas of life. There's often a pull towards the deep end of psychology, the occult, transformation, to really understand what's going on beneath the surface. And here Neptune asks you to learn to set boundaries when it comes to intimacy, when it comes to power, because it's so easy to get pulled into other people's secrets, other people's pain. Can you see how Neptune's lessons can be so useful for us? Especially as we begin to recognize that, yes, we want to be compassionate, we want to be giving, but we also have to fill our own cup, because otherwise we feel completely exhausted afterwards, or we have to protect ourselves. And this is where crystals can become really useful, because for me, crystals can help us to remember to set boundaries, to re-establish our auras, our energetic boundaries before we go into a situation. If you were born around 1970 to 1984, you probably have Neptune in Sagittarius like me. And so you might recognize that our generation has really been about yearning for meaning, travel. There has been a kind of rejection of traditional religion in favor of us, our generation, wanting to find our own purpose, our own meaning. For me, this has very much been about creating my own religion. I really believe that I take from lots of different religions to have my own belief system, which is what I impart and use with my client work. And you might feel the same if you were born with Neptune in Sagittarius. But it's really important with us having this placement that we don't then begin to idealize modern day gurus and get deceived by what's being promised because we're yearning for that higher meaning. If you were born between around 1984 and 1998, then you will have Neptune in Capricorn. And Neptune in Capricorn is the generation that idealized achievement, that saw becoming a leader or being an authority of some sort was the ultimate goal. And so the boundaries to be set here are about recognizing when you are putting too much into work and too much focus on success and achievement, and where you need to take back your energy, because it's easy to lose yourself trying to prove your worth, prove your human worth, so much so that you end up sacrificing your personal needs and your spiritual needs as well. And so when Neptune moved into Capricorn, I was very young. I was about 5 years old, and I remember being at a really confusing time. At that time, Neptune was making a more harmonious connection with my son, but I remember it being a very confusing time. My parents split up when I was very young, and I remember just not understanding why we were going to a different place, why we were leaving my dad, and it feeling like I was completely lost in some way. But also this sense of like just going with the flow, just let the adults lead the way and everything will be all right. And everything was all right. But I remember that time being nebulous and having to, even though I was very small, have faith, which is another Neptune word. If you were born between 1998 and 2012, then you have Neptune in Aquarius. And so if you were born with Neptune in Aquarius, then now is the time when you're becoming an adult. And so those values that Neptune in Aquarius has given you are about community, are about being connected to humanity in some way. And if you are part of this generation, then you have grown up online, digitally connected to everyone. And so there'll be a real yearning to somehow find a way to make a contribution to humanity. But of course, we need to understand where boundaries need to be set, where you might be getting into a habit of being overly connected in the digital world and losing the connection with your human, with your body. We already know that if we watch the news too much, then you can feel absorbed by people's pain, by the suffering of the world. And we have to know when to pull back. Because when we do that, when we don't get absorbed by that energy, then we have more to give to the people around us. And so finally, if you were born between 2012 and 2026, then you'll have Neptune in Pisces, which we've already talked about. Highly intuitive, highly sensitive, naturally creative. And so the Neptune lesson here is about being open and compassionate, but without losing yourself. And being the compassionate person that you are, I'm sure that you've discovered this in your own way, as Neptune has been moving through Pisces. So let me know where Neptune is in your chart. I mean, you can see how the real message here is about what we are idolizing too much, or what we are yearning for so much so that we're losing energy and that we're losing personal power in some way. And this is the lesson that Neptune is trying to teach us. So did you experience your own awakening while Neptune was in Pisces? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're feeling called to give your intuition an upgrade, then definitely check out my free 7-day crystal challenge to activate your intuition and help you make more heart-led decisions in your life. Thank you for watching.